Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the eBuilder Update. We have two new guests. We have Dave Schulz, who is the Vice President of Planning, Development, and Design and also the University Architect. And we have Loretta Deloatch, who is an Administrative Coordinator in Strategic Services. Thank you both for coming on today.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Glad to be here.
Okay, so Dave, we'll start with you for the first question. So as Vice President of Planning, Development, and Design, can you walk us through what your role is in the PRF process?
Sure. So in short, it's to be guardian of the gate for requests made by university constituents for capital and non-capital projects, real estate, and certain initiatives. It's kind of that first intersection with a germ of an idea.
Loretta, what's your role in that process? Once the PRF gets to you, what do you do next?
Well, after Dave had the opportunity to look at all the requests that comes in, he does his assignment on it. My role is to make sure that the proper group gets it in the IP&O unit. So that's part of what I do. I want to make sure that they get it as quickly as possible because we have projects that come in. Sometimes they're grant funded, so we want to make sure that the appropriate people get those project requests and be able to assign it to who they need to.
So the guardian of the gate concept was the short version. The longer version is that I review requests made by faculty, staff, sometimes students even, by fellow staff at IP&O, by a dean's or chancellor's office, and there's a request made. Do they want to lease some space? Do they want to build something? Do they want to add some equipment that has an effect on infrastructure? And what I do is I look at this request and I vet it for a few things. I vet it for consistency with the university physical master plan. I take a look and try to understand is there an effect on known plans and initiatives that may be underway or upcoming? Is it an appropriate use of university funds? Is it even a project? So we receive PRFs where maybe a student needs help on a capstone project and they don't know where to turn. They submit a PRF. It's not a project. We get them to the right place. We get them to the right resource within IP&O. And one of my criteria that I also look at is, have we already done this, right? IP&O is a big place. Rutgers is a big place. We receive requests for projects on something we did 4, 5, 6 years ago, right? So that's one of the things that get vetted. After that, I look to see, does this affect any other areas of IP&O? Are there any items of concern that might get flagged in this? For example, perhaps we have a building that we know is on the demolish list, right? In the next couple of years, we know we want to take this building down. We shouldn't be doing capital projects in that building. So the PRF review process asks questions like that, and maybe it turns it into a project, maybe it doesn't. I often check with chancellor's offices and my contacts in the chancellor's office. Is this something they want to move forward on? Because at the end of the day, that's really who our clients are those chancellor's office reps. So we may get a request from a faculty member, and it's not somebody I recognize, it's not something I've seen before, so I check with both the dean and the chancellor's office. Is this something you expected to see? Is this something you want to move forward on? If yes, we'll get it assigned. If no, we won't proceed on it. And finally, as part of the vetting process, I look for constraints that may be identified in there. Is this a deadline-driven project, right? Does this have to happen before classes start next semester, right? Are there funding constraints, right? Has the chancellor's office said spend no more than X on it? And finally, are there any source fund concerns? Is this a grant that brings with it certain conditions, and we have to make sure that those conditions are known as the project manager moves forward with it.
Based on all of what Dave mentioned, the criteria he looks for in looking at the PRF, the process, and how he goes about vetting it out and getting it to the proper people. Once he does his vetting on that, he'll notify me, and I'll see different notes that, as he was referring to. Maybe he wants to talk it over with Chancellor. So I may get a note or a notification from him to say, put it on hold. We want to review with Chancellor. Or, as he mentioned, there might be projects that isn't part of a project. It won't be in the module. It may be something that it's required for maintenance operations staff. So again, to what he was saying, we'll direct that to the right people, to the right resource. So those are what my roles are, part of what my roles are with that. I'll take his notes, his guidance, and I'll refer that to the proper individuals. And if it is moving forward in the project, then we'll get that to the right group or the right supervisor who's going to oversee the project itself.
And if I could use that as an opportunity for further explanation, we don't use the PRF process to frustrate our internal clients, right? We will get PRFs, project request forms, and we don't need a lot of information in there.
No,
I would rather have the minimum information needed and process it timely than have a bunch of fill in the blanks that we say that we need and they must be perfect, and it takes weeks to do that. What I mean to say is, in the old days, prior to the current process, we used to ask for fund source information. And probably when you initiate a request, you don't know exactly where the money's coming from, right? That's the chief business officer of the chancellor's office that's going to identify that. So they don't know the information, so they would put in wrong information just to get past the system, right? So we are looking to get these PRFs assigned timely, if they are indeed to be assigned. So we really need just some basic information, and if we need details, Loretta will reach out or I will reach out. So it's kind of a less is more.
So how is eBuilder going to help you two do your jobs better, and how is it going to help people on the customer side and people within IP&O?
Brief history of PRF. So I started here in 2013. I came over from UMDNJ with the merger, and there was a PRF process back then. And I believe requests came in through AIM, or maybe it was an old University Facilities and Capital Planning email address. I don't remember. Regardless, the requests would be aggregated, and once a month, Tony would chair a meeting, and we would go over the list of requests and verbally assign them. So John Shulak was there, Janice Davey was there, Jeff Livingston was there, Ghislaine was there, I was there, and again, just would go down the list, not really ask any questions, and then just kind of push it to a department. Not really an effective system. Waiting 30 days to begin your review. It's just the way it was back then. Since then, there's been enormous improvements. So that was back, pre-IP&O, right? In 2016, IP&O was created, and Tony Calcato realized that this process had to be streamlined. Response had to be quicker, had to be more consistent. And with the creation in 2016 of PD&D, Planning, Development, and Design, Tony said PD&D, that's the front end of things. So Planning, Development, and Design, we don't do construction documents, we don't do construction, we don't do renovations, that's university facilities, but we do a lot of work on the front end, beginning with planning. So Tony said, PD&D, you're the guardian of the gate for those initial requests. Projects have to start somewhere. They'll start with review by PD&D. So we worked with a system that was a web-based form that required perfection in every box. Otherwise, it didn't get through. And it was frustrating because people might not know the exact room numbers, or it's a feasibility study that's going to look at multiple buildings, and the old system didn't allow for that. So these project requests would get jammed up. Probably in 2017, maybe 18, we tackled that, working with strategic services, and developed really a streamlined web-based form, right? Tell us who you are, tell us what you're looking for, give us whatever details you might want to offer, and we'll take it from there. And if I have questions, I'll reach out. If Loretta has questions, so she'll reach out. And if not, then we know how to assign it. So it's a much more streamlined process than when it started 10 years ago. So 2013, get around a table once a month. 2017, the current web-based system. And then here we are in 2023, getting ready to make the step into eBuilder. It's on the continuum of improvement. Why do I say that? Today's web-based form is a set of data collected. Comes to me by email. I reply to the email, add whatever remarks, it then goes to Loretta, who then manually has to enter things into the capital projects manual. The new system, the Streamline system, everything is an e-builder. So a project request is made behind the login. I get a notification. I go in the system. I can edit information if I know the information is incorrect. Let's say they call it Cook instead of College Avenue. We can make corrections, we can add notes. I then suggest the assignment. With a click of a single button, that information stays in eBuilder, goes over to Loretta for next steps, and there's no unnecessary duplication of information. So there's less effort, and frankly, there's less chance for human error, right? Because it's not being transcribed. So this continuum of improvements from that clunky once a month to 2013 to 2023's eBuilder really speaks to continuous quality improvement, and that's what we should be looking at.
So I would just add, as Dave was talking about, that ease of getting it into the system, that ease of moving forward from 2013 to now, to present day. I can speak a little bit for eBuilder because I was actually on the committee, and I was a committee member. I was there, and as they were trying to look at eBuilder as a whole and see what steps they were going to do in creating that. Now, I don't have expertise in eBuilder itself. However, looking into the system and being on the committee, yes, thank you, Dave. But looking as a committee member and seeing the idea of what they're doing, coming into eBuilder with the projects will be phenomenal. It's going to be a much easier transition. As Dave mentioned, the customer don't need a lot of information. We can correct that as it comes in. We just need to know what they're looking for, who they are, and pretty much that's it. As it comes through, we'll make that determination. Dave will look at it. He'll see what's going on with it, what other information may be required, and if we need to, we'll reach out to the customer. Dave and I, we work very well together, so if there's a question, I can reach out to him. He'll reach out to me, and before we get it to the customer, we'll be on the same page. So going into eBuilder will definitely be much, much better. And also there's room for tracking. There's that effort of knowing, because once you do an action in eBuilder, it's tracked. So you have that level of security as well. Every action needs a reaction. So that's going to be in eBuilder. So it's going to be there. It's going to be much better, and it's going to streamline perfectly.
And also to build on that, Paul, I anticipate one of your questions might be, well, how many PRFs do we deal with in a month?
Yes.
Today, I would have to go back and count emails, right?
Right.
Count emails. And if you ask me, well, how many were approved, how many rejected, then I'm going to just get cranky, because now you have to open up every email and see what the action was. And
I can help you out with that, Dave.
Not a good system. Loretta could look at it, but it's clunky and clumsy, and there's not a report function, right? So after eBuilder, ask me how many PRFs there were in any given period of time and what the disposition was. It's a report, right? It's a report that comes from the system, and we'll be able to report on key data and KPIs, key performance indicators. What was the turnaround time on a PRF? We'll be able to answer that. Mm-hmm. Also, a lot of things that I described during this podcast are benefits for me and Loretta. How does it make our lives easier? But there's really downstream positive effects. So any notes that I learned during my conversations with Frank Wong on Master Plan, with the Chancellor Provost's office in Rutgers, New Brunswick, with the CBO at RBHS, any of the information that comes out of that goes into the record, the project record on eBuilder, and is there forever, right? So you don't have to worry about what if the project manager switches, or what if you just don't remember? It doesn't matter, because it's there as part of the permanent project record.
Well, I will take it back just a little step just to help you out just a little bit, Dave, as far as our PRF monthly report. Now, strategic services, we do have a report we can get access to. It will give us a monthly report. My direct supervisor, Madam Zayas, she runs that report every month. Now, that though in itself doesn't give all the details that Dave is mentioning. It does give us an idea of how many PRFs come in, and it gives us what they're looking for. But so we can have a estimated guess. I've seen as high as 70, 80 in recent months per month coming in. And we can get more based on the time of year. When students return back to school, there could be a lot of requests at that point. So it can be well over 80 PRFs a month. But with what Dave is mentioning in eBuilder itself, it's going to be streamlined, it's going to be more effective, because that data that we have doesn't track who's putting in a request, who's being assigned to that request. eBuilder will do that. There's going to be an audit trail for that. So whenever it's assigned to a group in eBuilder, there's an audit trail. To his point, if a supervisor retires and there's another person there, there's still an audit trail that says this project's being worked on in this group. So you're able to track it more effectively, more efficiently.
But I think as a final note, or approaching final note about eBuilder, what I also like about how this is set up is there's improved business continuity. Mm-hmm. So frankly, today, I mean, any of us can get sick, right? COVID, not COVID. You could be out unexpectedly for an extended period because you've taken ill, right? Or maybe you actually want to go on vacation and stay off your emails, right? In today's system, there's not an easy way to adapt to planned or unplanned absences. That changes with eBuilder. So Frank Wong and Laura Berman are being set up as backups, right? So if I'm out on vacation, or God forbid I get sick and suddenly I'm out for a bit, the IWMS administration can go in, flip the switch, and then we have business continuity through other reviewers.
All right, well, thank you for that info and for talking about eBuilder and the PRF process. And thanks everyone for tuning in, and stay tuned for more information about eBuilder in the future.